What's up, everybody, and thanks so much for watching. I'm Jacob, and today I'm going to show you how to calculate a rolling total using window functions in SQL. Window functions are a bit more complex than your standard select from where statement, but they aren't too bad. You'll be getting the hang of this in no time. So first things first, let's say that you have a table, and you got some business data broken down by year and month. And your goal is to get a 3-month rolling total of the total sales column, sort of like this. For each month in your data set, you're going to want to look back 3 months and get the sum of those sales. And we can keep going down the line kind of like this. You get the gist. This has quite a bit of practical use. People use things like this in finance, business, healthcare, sports, science, and so forth. I'm not going to dive into details here since this video isn't about use cases, but the point is, this is a pretty useful thing to be able to do. Now, there may be other ways to go about doing this in SQL, but today I want to show you how you can do this with just one line of code. Here's the data we'll be working with. We have, for each calendar date, several meteorological or weather-related observations. Of particular interest to us are the daily precip and the daily average temperature fields. We want to take a particular day, say January 19th of 2020, and calculate the rolling 14-day sum of daily precip and the average of the daily temperature. Then we want to keep doing this for each successive date in our table. So how do we do this exactly? I guess the title of this video pretty much gives it away. We're going to use window functions. A window function just performs aggregate operations across specific sets of rows, which are otherwise known as windows. For a data set, we're using a 14-day window that each row will make use of. We then take an aggregate function, so sum, average, etc., and calculate for each individual row in your table across the 14 days of previous data. Let's take a look at this in action. So now I want to show you what this actually looks like whenever you are working with your SQL queries in your relational database systems. I'm going to be using MySQL, although you may have something different. You may be using like BigQuery or Snowflake, or maybe you're using SQL Server. Whatever you're using, though, the syntax should be pretty similar, and this is pretty standard SQL, so it should work maybe with just a few modifications across just about any platform. This is what our data looks like. We've got several fields here, but the one we're focused on most are the date fields and the daily precipitation field. So for each date we've got here, we have a daily precipitation amount. And what we want to do is we want to take, for the purposes of this demonstration, we want to return the date, we want to return the daily precipitation that fell on that date, and then for each date, we want to find the sum total of the previous 14 days of precipitation. So like for January 14th, we want to find the last 14 days. For January 15th, we want to find the last 14 days. January 16th, the last 14 days, etc. And we want to put that in a different column than the daily precipitation field. And it's actually very, very easy to do. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put in this query right here. And basically we are selecting the date. We're selecting the daily precipitation total. And by the way, you don't have to select this field in order to run this part of the query. This is just because this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of get the daily precipitation total, and then I wanted to get the sum of the 14-day precipitation total. So this is kind of where the magic happens right here. Again, all this stuff right here and then this stuff right here, that's pretty basic SQL. This right here is the window function itself. So what we're telling it to do is we're saying I want to get the sum of daily precipitation over, and this is where we're going to specify what we want it to do. We're going to order by date. Basically, we're just telling it we want to look at the date field and we just want to order the results by date, which is great. That's what we're already doing basically. Then we want to tell it to range between. So this is kind of where we're specifying the window that we're going to have it look at. So for each line of the query that this returns, or each line of data that this returns, it's basically going to say, okay, for each line, I'm going to be looking at a range between 14 days preceding or before and the current row. So for every row that's being returned, it's going to look at the date. It's going to say, okay, I'm going to go back 14 days, and I'm going to go all the way up to the current row or the current date, and I'm going to find the sum of the daily precipitation. And I know that may sound a little bit difficult. It may sound garbled. I probably didn't explain it very well, but just know that this is the syntax, at least in MySQL and probably for most other SQL platforms as well, for executing this window function. And this is going to give us a 14-day kind of moving sum, if you will, of precipitation. So let's go ahead and execute this, and this is what we get. So we've got in our query results, we've got our date, and so returning each individual date. We're returning the daily precipitation on that date, and then here's our rolling 14-day total. So basically what it's doing is for the 10th here, it's taking this and it's looking back as far as it can. It's basically looking back to the 1st of January, because it's up to or including 14 days. So really what's happening here is on the 10th, it can only go back about 10 days because that's the only data range that we've got. But as we go forward, what it's doing is, for example, the 11th, it's saying, okay, we had 2.45 inches on the 10th plus 0.24 inches on the 11th. So now we're going to have 2.69 inches. And then we continue to go forward, and then now we get to like the 17th, and it's like, okay, we've had 1.11 inches of rain here. And if we go back 14 days, this is kind of the area that this is evaluating. We've also got this 2.45 inches and the 0.24 that fell on the 11th. And you can kind of tell that this is actually working because if you go further down the list here, you'll notice around the 25th, it drops back off. And that's because whenever you look at the date range that it is evaluating, suddenly that 2.45 inches that fell on the 10th is now out of range. So you can tell that this thing is kind of doing the job that we need it to do. Now I know that this is really clunky here, these super long numbers. Really all we got to do is pretty much just do a round function, and we're just going to say round, and then we're going to put a comma 2 over here, and we're going to re-execute this, and hopefully it'll work, and it did. Okay. So yeah, this is how we basically go about doing this. And you can do this with any interval you want. Let's just say that instead of a 14-day interval, we want a 30-day interval. So we go ahead and run that query. So now it's going to be coming down here, and let's just say on the 31st, it's going to be looking all the way back to 30 days back, however far that is, whether it's the 1st or the 2nd of the month. And then, we get to like the 29th of February, it's going to be looking back 30 some days, or exactly 30 days, and it's going to be returning this rolling sum, which I know it says rolling 14-day sum, but it's actually a rolling 30-day sum now. And you can also do this, let's just keep going a little bit, you can do this with things that are not days. We can say interval 2 month preceding. So this is going to give us the prior 2 months of precipitation data. It's just going to keep tallying for 2 months. Or we can even do a year. We can see like interval 1 year preceding. And it's going to calculate the rolling total over the course of an entire year. So, we can see if we just keep really zooming down here, by the time we get to 2021, which is where we finally got a year's worth of data, you can see, it says that we've had 45.57 inches of rain across the last year. And so that's pretty simple. It's not super complicated. It was hard to figure out, but it's actually not difficult at all whenever you know the syntax. This just goes to show you a little bit of what's possible. Alrighty, as a reminder, the syntax is this. Start with your aggregate function. Take the sum or the average or so forth of a certain field. Then you move on over to the over keyword, which tells SQL that you're about to use a window function. And now you just define the parameters of the window function itself. You want to order by the date field, so basically we're going in chronological order, and then you want to specify a range. In this case, that's between 14 days before the specified row and the date of the row itself. Pretty simple, huh? Now, there's more that you can do with window functions, and a lot more, but maybe we can cover that some other time. And that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you found this helpful. Also, would you like to see me cover other SQL or data analysis topics? Feel free to comment down below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.